In Haze Seas, your race isn't just a cosmetic choice, it actually shapes how your entire character feels. Each race gives you passive bonuses that can boost things like movement speed, stamina, survivability, or even combat power, which can completely change how you play the game. Some races feel smooth and fast for exploration, while others are built more for tanking hits or dominating fights. And here's where it gets even more interesting. Once you hit level 2200, you can upgrade your race to V2, unlocking even stronger abilities that really separate the good races from the broken ones. That's why today we're going to break everything down and rank them properly, because whether you're grinding bosses, going PvP, or just roaming around the seas, picking the right race can make a huge difference. Let's get into the Haze Seas race tier list. I'm quickly moving on to the video, and I'm ranking races in Haze Seas. Before we start, if you enjoy these types of list videos, don't forget to like the video and subscribe. Enjoy watching. The races in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Skyborn and Fishborn. If you ever wondered why some players in Haze Seas look like they are training for flying lessons while others seem permanently prepared for a pool day, this is exactly where C tier starts to make sense. Skyborn is the first one on the list, and honestly it feels like the I swear it gets better later type of race. In its first version, you get a 50% boost on your first skywalk. That sounds cool on paper, and for crossing gaps or getting over terrain, it does help, but in actual fights, you are not exactly striking fear into anyone's heart. Once you reach version 2, Skyborn starts acting a bit more confident. You unlock a glide ability that lets you hold space and fall twice as slowly, which turns falling into something more like dramatic floating. On top of that, your first skywalk becomes twice as powerful, so your opening movement feels much stronger, even if everything after that is still very situational. Then we move to Fishborn, which feels like Skyborn's cousin who decided to never leave the water. In version 1, you get a 50% swim speed boost. That is basically the game saying, congratulations, you are now slightly less miserable in water. Version 2 is where Fishborn finally tries to show off a bit more. You get double swim speed and double walk speed for 4 seconds after you hop out of water, which can actually feel pretty explosive in short bursts. On top of that, you gain water damage immunity if you are a fruit user, which makes certain situations much safer than they have any right to be. So when you compare both of them, Skyborn is all about controlled movement in the air, while Fishborn is about short bursts of speed in and out of water. Neither of them is going to dominate PvP or PvE, but they do make traveling around Haze Seas feel less painful. Basically, they are not the stars of the show, but they are the background characters that keep things moving while everyone else is busy fighting. The races in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Beastborn and Human. If there is one thing you notice quickly in Haze Seas, it is that not every race is built to be flashy. Some of them are just quietly good enough to keep you alive a little longer than you probably deserve. Beastborn is the first one in this tier, and it kind of feels like the reliable gym buddy of races. In its first version, you get a 20% increase in walk speed and a 5% stamina boost. Nothing crazy on its own, but when you are constantly dashing around in PvP, that extra stamina starts to matter way more than it sounds at first. When you upgrade Beastborn to version 2, it finally steps into its real identity. The walk speed jumps to 50% and stamina increases to 10%. This is where it stops being just okay and starts feeling like a proper, mobility-focused race, especially for non-melee builds that rely on constant repositioning instead of brute force. Then we switch over to Human, which is basically Beastborn's slightly underpowered cousin who still shows up to every fight anyway. In version 1, it gives you a 25% walk speed boost, but only when your health drops below 70%, so it is not even active all the time, which already puts it in a weird spot. Version 2 makes Human a bit more interesting, but still not exactly terrifying. The low health condition stays, the walk speed bonus increases to 50%, and you also gain 1 observation dodge. That extra dodge can actually save you in clutch situations, but you have to be low HP first, which is not exactly a position you want to plan around. So overall, Beastborn feels like the consistent performer you can rely on every fight, while Human is more like a panic button race that only shines when things are already going badly. Neither of them is broken, neither of them is weak enough to ignore. They just sit comfortably in that middle ground where good timing matters more than raw power. The races in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, Dragonborn and Demon. If you start climbing into A tier in Haze Seas, things finally begin to feel like you are no longer just surviving, but actually shaping how fights play out. These races are not perfect, but they definitely have identity. Dragonborn is the first one here, and it immediately feels like the tank who also likes sightseeing kind of race. In version 1, you get 10% health and 10% health regeneration, which already makes you noticeably harder to take down in both player versus player and player versus environment situations. On top of that, you get a 25% boost on your first skywalk, which sounds flashy, but ends up being more about mobility than actual combat impact. When you reach version 2 of Dragonborn, the defensive theme continues. You still keep that 10% health boost, and instead of stacking more combat power, you gain a glide ability that lets you fall twice as slowly by holding space. It is smooth, it is stylish, but if we are being honest, it is still mostly for movement and map traversal rather than winning fights directly. Then we move to Demon, which feels like the exact opposite energy. This one is less about defense and more about slowly draining your opponent's patience. In version 1, you gain 2.5% lifesteal, which already starts giving you sustain in longer fights where every bit of healing matters. Version 2 is where Demon starts getting spicy. Your lifesteal increases to 3%, and you also gain a 10% chance to summon a Hellfire Circle when you dash, dealing extra damage. It is not guaranteed impact every time, but when it triggers at the right moment, it can completely change the flow of a fight in your favor. So when you compare them, Dragonborn is the steady defensive option that keeps you alive longer and makes mistakes less punishing, while Demon is the more aggressive sustained pick that rewards constant fighting and smart positioning. Neither one is overpowered, but both of them clearly have enough value to sit comfortably in A tier. The races in this tier are, in order from top left to bottom right, D-Clan. If there is one race in Haze Seas that instantly tells you this player is not here to play fair, it is D-Clan. This is the kind of mythical tier option that quietly does everything right without needing any flashy gimmicks to prove itself. The health boost alone already makes you noticeably harder to burst down, and the stamina increase turns you into someone who can constantly dash around fights without running out of breath at the worst possible moment. In version 1, D-Clan gives you 5% health and 5% stamina, plus Conqueror's Spirit, which costs 250 stamina to activate. On paper, that ability sounds strong, and early on, it definitely feels impactful, but as you move deeper into endgame content, you will find yourself relying more on raw stats and movement rather than situational abilities like that. Once you upgrade to version 2, everything tightens up in a very clean way. You get 10% health and 10% stamina, which is already a massive quality of life improvement for both player versus player and player versus environment. On top of that, Conqueror's Spirit becomes cheaper at 200 stamina instead of 250, making it slightly more usable, even if the real strength of D-Clan is still its pure, consistent stat advantage rather than the ability itself. The video ends here. See you in another video. Don't forget to subscribe.